Welcome to another great episode of Real Voices. We have another great guest. We have Juan Ramirez with us.
What's up?
Thank you so much for joining us on the show,
Thank
Juan.
you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Hey, so tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been in the industry? What got you into the industry? Who do you serve?
I've been going on 3 years.
Okay.
I did get my license back in 2007 as the market was collapsing and recession and everything else. And so I did do business for a year, but I just wasn't as motivated as I should have been. I was younger. So I ended up getting out. I stayed within lending, and that took me to banking, and then that took me to finance, and then investments. But I just always, I'm passionate about real estate.
Okay.
I always like, I could watch those shows like Fixer Upper and not Selling Sunset or those type of fake shows, but like the real fixing up houses and selling them and all that. I just always wanted to go back. So I was at this company, amazing company. If you're gonna invest, probably the best company to invest. Like a mutual fund company. Mm-hmm. But they really limited you on how much growth you can have. So for example, like if you went to a different position, you were maxed out at like 7% increase.
Right.
And you could only do that every like 2 years. And if you skip 2 different positions, instead of making almost double, which is kind of what you see in a lot of industries, you were just maxed out at like 14%, I think. Anyways, I kept thinking like, where can I go to increase my be able to change the lifestyle for my kids and my wife. And at that time I only had one son, and then my daughter was on the way. So then I was thinking about, well, what if I go back to selling? Because I've always been in sales. And I was like, that's a way to have a opportunity for advancements or to make more potential income. And I was like, but I don't want to go into another financial institution and sell products I don't believe in,
right,
or any other company. I just didn't want to do that. So I was like, what can I sell where I'm not, forced to sell product I might not believe? I was like, what if I sell myself? I was like, well, what can I do? And then it clicked. Real estate, because you're not really selling homes. Homes sell themselves. You're in reality, you're selling, your services,
right,
because you have so many options, especially right now. So, and I say, it's no brainer. I have to go back. And I got my license, did 2 transactions and quit my job. And then from there, it's been just full time, just doing this. And, I just couldn't, I wouldn't do it any other way.
Awesome, man. So I'm just thinking back 2007. I remember that time as well. I was in lending and it was tough.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. When were you working at the same time at that time when you got into real estate originally, or did you jump in wholeheartedly at the time?
So back then I jumped in. I had a really good job. I was only 21 years old, but I was like, I don't know. I can't see myself doing that. I was a not financial advisor. I was a service advisor.
Okay.
So like I was in the service department at a big car dealership. I just really didn't see myself doing that the long term. So one of my friends was doing amazing. We had we attended junior high together. And we saw each other somewhere, and he told me what he was doing. He's like, you should join me. I'm starting my own company. And I said, all right. But he was on the lending side.
Okay.
So I joined first on the lending side, and then, things were going okay. Just that I kind of came in with the mindset, because everybody would tell me the same thing. There's so much business. People are going to basically ask you to refinance their home. They're going to say, hey, I want to buy this house. Help me out. And there's just so much business out there, right? So when I joined is when we were like at the peak or kind of sloping down. So by the time I got my license as a realtor, that's really when everything started getting kind of shaky. I still did a couple of transactions. Obviously, there's still people buying and selling. It's just a little bit, it's a different market, completely different. But I was full time, and I tried doing it for a year, but I wasn't doing the things that I'm doing right now, like following up with clients. Making, doing some marketing, those things that will help you get out there. I just wasn't doing it. I just thought being in an office, sitting there waiting for clients, people were just going to come in and ask you to help them,
Right. So that's what I want to kind of touch on base with is what did you learn that has helped you from the 2007 experience to now? Like what has been the difference for you?
Well, I feel like I didn't really learn anything back in 2007 or 8. Just kind of went along and blamed other factors instead of blaming myself. But when I'm huge into YouTube, like I'm always watching YouTube channels, trying to educate myself on different topics. And before I got into real estate again, I started watching videos, and a lot of the big coaches like Tom Ferry,
right,
and just other smaller coaches out there. So that's when I really learned what it required to really be successful and to have a good business. And that's when I realized, I started thinking about what did I do back then that went wrong. And I remember when I sat down at my desk and made calls and reached out to people that needed some help, that's when things went well. But when I got lazy and I didn't do those things, my business slowed down. But for some reason, I think a lot of people in this industry don't connect those things, right? So that's kind of what happened. I remember this young couple, actually, fortunately they were getting divorced, but they had listed their house for 6 months and the agent never called them, didn't follow up with them, didn't tell them why the house didn't sell. So they were an expired listing. I called them and I was able to help them. Within 2 months, we had the house sold because we priced it right. And I had the help from my broker, so we did the things that realtors are supposed to do to get a house sold, even though the market was even worse than when they first listed the house. But that's the thing. I think we need to go out there with the focus of helping people rather than looking at the dollar signs, right? I mean, the money will come as long as you go out there with good intentions and help people. You'll get referrals and all that.
Makes sense.
All that comes with it.
Appreciate that. So obviously you didn't grow up dreaming of being a realtor. What did that look like for you? What did you think you wanted to be when you were an adult?
What I was like, my dad's always he's been very good at investing and managing his money. So I feel like he's probably the one that got me into investing and he bought a bunch of land back before it went up a lot. And he would always tell me, like, you should buy houses, you should fix them up. And that kind of got me on that mindset. And then when I started really getting into it, I was like, I really would enjoy doing that.
Okay.
So I think ever since I was maybe 20, I always saw myself as a realtor, investor. And obviously when everything went down, that changed, right? But I just came back up when I kind of saw myself in a situation. I was like, I don't know if I want to be stuck in an office. Because I used to work like 6 to 7 days a week, like 10 to 12 hours in an office.
At the auto dealership?
No, this is like my last job.
Okay.
It was at a financial institution.
Okay.
So you would be by the office looking out on the window, sun going up. I would get there literally be like in the winter especially.
Right.
I would get to work like at 7 a.m. so the sun was barely coming up. And then I would leave at 7 p.m. so the sun was already down. So it was like, I basically missed out on all that, And I mean, it was a great job, great experience, but I just couldn't see myself doing that for another 10, 20, 30 years.
Right, man. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, I hear you. Appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that, I guess some of the drawbacks of real estate, being a real estate agent that you see that you could share?
Some of the drawbacks, I would say, it's just sometimes you don't have that flexibility. Especially in this market. I mean, if you really want to be able to help people the right way, you have to be on top of things. And sometimes I would be having dinner, my family, or playing with my kids, and all of a sudden I would get a call from a realtor like, hey, if you send me this counter offer right now, we're under contract.
Right.
And I didn't want my client to miss out on that, so I would just kind of have to drop everything and go do that. When we're on vacation, that's my wife always complains about that. I'm on the phone, and I try to balance those things. But if you have a lot of deals going on and they just happen right before you went on vacation, you have to take care of business. So I would say part of that is the not being able to manage your time so well. Okay. And sometimes things come up. Now I think there's ways of fixing that. Like you could get an assistant, you could get another agent to take care of your deals when you're on vacation. But I think as you start doing more business, it gets easier to bring somebody on board full time that will be able to handle that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. How do you balance that? What are some of the things you do?
I'm huge about communication. One of my big pet peeves is when I'm doing business with someone, not real estate related, but or even real estate, like my lender or like any other business. I'm doing business with them and they never call me back or they don't text me or keep me updated. It's a huge pet peeve. So I kind of bring that to my business and realize, hey, my client might be feeling the same way if I don't do that. So I always have the need to answer my phone and keep my clients updated. So it's kind of tough to manage that. So I've tried to kind of set hours, right, and say, hey, after this time I can't. When titles close, there's really nothing else we can do, right? So I try to kind of block some time for my family, and then I'll take calls, or maybe I'll send them a text like, hey, I'm kind of busy right now. Can I call you back tomorrow, or what's going on? Is it an emergency? But yeah, before I would just answer the phone every single time and spend an hour on the phone. And a lot of times there's nothing really you could do at 6 p.m.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you got to set boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Boundaries. Cool. So, as a kid, who was your role model? Who did you want to be?
I would say my dad.
Okay.
Just because my dad's always been very hardworking. Kind of passed on a lot of values, and I just can't think of anybody else that I would have. Like I know a lot of people sometimes think about like actors or whatever. I think to me it was just my dad.
I thought that the same way that most people would think of someone outside, but I've asked a lot of people that question, and it tends to be their family, someone close that they were there, and so it's powerful how much influence we have when we're that close with people.
Yeah.
It's important. Thank you. So, do you consider yourself an adventurous person? Do you get out much and do crazy things?
We're starting to.
Okay.
Before, it takes money to do all those things, right? Like to travel, and so we would do maybe one big vacation. I used to get this bonus at my last job, so we would use some of that bonus to go like to Disney World in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
My wife, she never really got to travel when she was younger, so she's always wanted to travel. So we've gone different places, but now that my business is doing much better at a different stage, we're doing a little bit more traveling. We're heading to Cancun here, hopefully like in a month or so. Okay. So that's going to
cool.
be something different.
I think about that all the time. Growing up, I didn't get much traveling going on, so I try and get as many places I can, road trips, whatever that looks like. I think it's important.
Yeah, I think once we had the kids, it got a little tougher. Before I got married, I did do some backpacking through Europe. I even visited Beijing, so
Okay.
I did. I think it helps you because it gets you exposed to other cultures.
Right.
It makes you understand how good we have it here.
So the backpack trip, were you in hostels and all that, or did you?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, man. What made you want to do that?
I don't know. I just wanted to travel, get out. Like I had gone to New York and I was there for a little bit, and I was like, I want to get to travel a little bit more and see different places because I was gonna go back to university and to ASU. And I was like, once I go to school, I don't know if I'll have time to do all this. I wasn't really planning on getting married right after college, but I was lucky I did do some of that traveling because after it would have been really tough.
Right. So I guess I'm just trying to think about being in China. What is something you took back with you? Something you saw there, or you experienced, you felt there, and you brought home with you?
Just the culture. I lived in places that are somewhat similar, like Mexico, where you lack certain things that we have here that you don't really take for granted once you if you're born into it, right? If you don't get to see experience other countries, you don't really notice that. But like in Mexico, I live in a very small town. I grew up there for 5 years. I lived there for 5 years, so you see the contrast, and I feel like it's good to experience those things because it's almost like there's happiness, but there's also sadness, right? You can't experience happiness if you never experience like a bad situation. So I feel like it's like that, right? You have to experience, another country that maybe doesn't have the resources we have to understand, to appreciate what you have when we come back.
It's a great thing, as they say, the first world problems kind of melt away, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My phone's working too slow,
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's a great thought. I appreciate it. So something that I guess you teach your kids, is there something you're always harping at them about, or always trying to make sure they understand?
I've always, like I said, my dad's really good with money, so he always taught me since I was very young. I've always worked since I was a little kid. Not like child labor, like breaking laws or anything like that, but my dad had a grocery store, so I would clean the cans and restock, and I was like 7 years old. And after that, I actually even shined shoes. I did all kinds of stuff. But what I try to teach them is that the value of money, the value of hard work, because like what I was saying, my dad was really good with money, so always taught me that. So I always want to teach that to people. And sometimes when I try to explain to people, like you don't own a house and you're buying Starbucks every day, or you don't have any savings, but you got those brand new rims, like. You need to prioritize, understand, like, do I really need this?
Right.
Or if you need to have goals, because I feel like you have to have goals to kind of have that roadmap, right? If you don't have that goal, like, where are you going to go? Are you going to stay always in the same, or are you going to go upwards? So that's what I try to teach my kids, they're young. My son, the oldest, he's about to be 7, but he just broke his iPad. And, I told him, like, hey, you broke it. You aren't responsible. You're gonna have to deal with it. So then I started thinking about it. I was like, what can I teach him with that experience? I was like, well, I told him, this is your responsibility. You have to, throw out the trash. You have to pick, clean your room.
Right.
But for the next, so many weeks, I'm gonna pay you a salary for that, and then you're gonna use that to fix your tablet. I didn't even expect him to get so excited about that, but he was super excited. But I feel like those little experiences are what would help them understand the value of hard work and how to use money. And that, because I feel like sometimes when, like, I see families that maybe didn't have a lot, and all of a sudden they have a thriving business, they kind of just give their kids, like those, give them a different life, but don't teach them how did that get there. And they just kind of grow up thinking, hey, this is just, I deserve it, right? So I want my kids to understand, hey, we get to travel, we get to, buy good clothes, but not everybody has that privilege. And you have to understand that it comes from hard work.
Right.
Man,
I appreciate that. I think about that often. My wife and I, we talk about it. How much do you share with the kids? Mm-hmm. How real do you get with them with these things? Because we also believe that whatever you feel can be, right? Mm-hmm. And so maybe it's okay to let them believe that this is just how it is. Because maybe in their life, maybe it will be that way. Yeah. I don't know. It's just that thing,
It's tough.
Even though you're like, no, it's work, man. You got to work at this. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Do you get to read much?
I'm not a big reader. I feel like I always had ADD.
Okay.
So like I maybe like in school, if I get a book that I'm really interested in,
right.
I can definitely focus. But I usually just listen to books.
Okay.
And so you just Audible, put my headphones on. Right. I'm working out when I'm doing things, but I usually listen to books or listen to a lot of YouTube channels that that I follow.
I do the same thing, man. I struggle trying to sit down and read something unless I'm really got an hour. I have to. So is there anything you've read in your life where you're like, man, yeah, that's the book? Is there a book you love?
So I read the Bible every morning.
Okay.
I try to read at least 2 pages. I already, went through the whole Bible once, and it's like I'm going through it again. It's like I read the same story and I get a different message from it.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of awesome books, but to me, the Bible is a book that like you could read the same, page and get a different message from it.
Right.
It's almost like the words change and give you what you need at that time. That's just my opinion.
I like that. Appreciate it. Thank you. Well, so I typically ask, you've answered kind of some of those questions that I typically ask, but when you were a kid and you grew up here, correct? And
so I was born in Torrance, California.
Okay.
Yeah, I lived until I was 7. And then my dad always kind of had this dream to go back to Mexico.
Okay.
So we went just across the border and we lived there for 5 years. And then we lived through the big devaluation of the peso, where like if you had like 10,000 pesos saved, all of a sudden they were worth only like 4,000 pesos. So like so then after that, my dad was like, no, you know what? I was growing up and he's like, eventually he's going to want to move back. I mean, the opportunities are over here. So we ended up just coming back. So I came when I was 12 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you got here, I always like to think like, man, is there that passion that you had? Like, hey, this is the thing I want to change. This is I want this to be different. Is there anything you thought in your childhood like you wanted to change the world, maybe?
Yeah, I can't really think of that. Like, if I was really like always focused on that. I definitely always had like a financial mind, like thought about money, how to deal with money. So I always try to help people that maybe don't have that education or that just don't understand how money works. Actually, I was talking to my pastor the other day. We're planning on setting something up so where we can invite a lot of the young couples into and then kind of talk to them about managing their money, budgeting. But overall, like I think that's kind of what
that's where you were.
Yeah.
Right. That's cool. I think that's what drives us. Maybe we don't realize it, but those little things that were tickling our curiosity I think is where we need to go. So appreciate that. Well, hey man, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
I had a great time with you. Where do people find you?
I have my email, juanrsalesaz@gmail.com. My phone number is 623-414-0450.
All right, man. Hey, appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thank you.